Everyone mocked them as a family of beggars, until the day her ragged brother stepped out of a bulletproof SUV with a convoy of guards, revealing he was the secret billionaire boss everyone feared. What followed was a revenge so satisfying you'll read it twice. Subscribe now for more gripping stories like this. The town of Westbridge had always prided itself on its elegance, its mansions, its posh residents, and its obsession with appearances, which was exactly why the arrival of the Alara family became the town's favorite joke, for they were poor, visibly so, and no matter how quietly they tried to live, the whispers followed them like shadows. The neighbors sneered at their patched clothes, their rusty bicycle, their cramped little rental house near the old mill, but none received more cruelty than Aster Alara, the youngest daughter, who walked into Westbridge High wearing shoes that didn't match and a backpack stitched together more times than she could count, yet she held her head high because she had her family, especially her brother Rowan, the gentle, soft-spoken boy who always told her, "Let them laugh, Aster, storms end, and when they end, the sky is ours." But the storm didn't end, it worsened, for the wealthier students mocked Aster relentlessly, calling her, "beggar girl," tossing coins at her feet, filming her reactions for social media, and even teachers treated her like she was less than the others, but she endured it, because Rowan always promised that things would change soon, though she never understood what he meant, because Rowan wasn't like other boys. He disappeared for weeks, sometimes months, returning with tired eyes and expired groceries, claiming he was doing temporary work, but Aster never questioned him, she trusted him blindly. The breaking point came on a rainy Tuesday when a group of boys, led by the mayor's son Cedric, cornered Aster in the school courtyard, filmed themselves mocking her family, grabbed her backpack, and dumped everything into a muddy puddle while chanting, "Beggar! Beggar!" And though Aster tried to defend herself, they pushed her down face first, laughing as she trembled. What they didn't know was that Rowan had returned to town earlier than expected and had seen the entire thing from behind the courtyard gate, his expression unreadable, and though Aster ran to him crying, begging him to leave before Cedric and his gang noticed him, Rowan simply helped her up gently, brushing the mud off her face, then turned to Cedric with a silence that was scarier than anger. Cedric, drunk on arrogance, shoved Rowan and said, "Move, beggar brother, this is Westbridge, and people like you don't belong here," and the other boys cackled, pulling out their phones to record more humiliation, but Rowan didn't react, didn't flinch. Instead, he pulled out his phone and whispered only one sentence, "It begins now." Within minutes, the sound of engines roared across the courtyard as a convoy of armored SUVs rolled through the school gates, sending students scattering in panic. Security in black stepped out, each one wearing the emblem of Obsidian Corp, a powerful private organization known only in rumors, whispered about like a myth, feared by businessmen, politicians, and underground figures alike. The school principal stormed outside, shouting about trespassing, threatening to call the police, until the lead guard handed him a tablet. Whatever was on the screen drained the color from the principal's face and shut him up instantly. Cedric's friends ran, but Cedric froze as the SUV doors opened and a tall man stepped out wearing a black tactical coat, sunglasses, and the unmistakable aura of a man used to commanding nations. It took Aster a second to realize, her breath stopped, her entire world tilted, because that man was Rowan, except not the brother she knew. This Rowan was authoritative, dangerous even, flanked by dozens of elite guards, and when he removed his glasses, the courtyard went dead silent. "Cedric Hale," Rowan said calmly, "son of Mayor Hale, guilty of assault, harassment, and defamation toward my sister. Today, every action has a consequence." Cedric stammered, insisting it was a misunderstanding, blaming Aster, blaming anyone except himself, but Rowan merely signaled his men, and they stepped forward, not to hurt Cedric, but to project holographic footage captured earlier. Every insult, every shove, every moment recorded clearly. Rowan then turned to Aster and softly said, "You asked me why I leave, little star. This is why. I wasn't working odd jobs. I was building an empire meant to protect us." The truth spilled out. Rowan wasn't poor, he wasn't struggling, he was the founder and silent owner of Obsidian Corp, a global intelligence and security conglomerate so powerful that governments partnered with him quietly to avoid public scrutiny. He'd kept it secret to protect his family from enemies, but the moment they touched Aster, he no longer cared about secrecy. The town spiraled into chaos, especially the Hale family, as Rowan presented evidence, not just of Cedric's harassment, but of the mayor's corruption, bribes, illegal land grabs, and embezzlement schemes. Within hours, federal agents arrived, seizing assets, shutting down the mayor's mansion, and arresting him on the spot. The same bullies who mocked Aster now hid in fear, their parents scrambling to save themselves as Rowan exposed decades of dirty secrets: tax fraud by business owners, illegal construction by the school board chair, financial exploitation by the town's wealthiest families. Aster watched the entire downfall unfold, overwhelmed, heart-pounding, terrified and proud all at once. But Rowan didn't stop there. He bought Westbridge High overnight, firing corrupt teachers, installing new staff, upgrading facilities, and creating scholarships for underprivileged students across the region. Aster, once the beggar girl, became the student representative of the newly reformed school, with every bully forced to publicly apologize, some even expelled when their own parents' crimes were exposed through Rowan's investigation. Yet among all the revenge, Rowan never lost his gentleness with Aster. He told her, "I never wanted war, but if they harm you, then I will bring the sky down on them." But the twists were far from over, because as Rowan rebuilt the town, he uncovered a hidden betrayal. Someone within Obsidian Corp had leaked information, trying to sabotage him, and that traitor was none other than their estranged uncle Marcus, a man who once tried to steal the family's inheritance years ago. Marcus had manipulated the town's elites into targeting the Alara siblings to force Rowan out of hiding. Jealousy and greed fueled his plan, but he underestimated Rowan's reach. Marcus attempted to flee, but Rowan cornered him in a private airstrip, not with violence, but with a deal: confess everything publicly and surrender all stolen assets, or face consequences he wouldn't escape. Marcus chose the deal, and when his confession went viral, the final layer of corruption in Westbridge collapsed. With the town reformed and the enemies defeated, Rowan announced that he would no longer run Obsidian Corp from the shadows. Instead, he built its new headquarters right outside Westbridge, bringing jobs, security, and a future to the very place that once mocked his family. Aster flourished. Once bullied, now admired, her voice shaping new community policies. And though some people still whispered about how terrifying Rowan could be, they also admitted one thing: Westbridge had never been safer or more honest. As Aster and Rowan stood on the balcony of their new home overlooking the town, Aster whispered, "They laughed at us because they thought we were powerless." Rowan smiled quietly and replied, "They forgot one truth: never judge a storm by the calm before it." And as the sun set over the transformed town, the world understood one fact: the revenge of the beggar family wasn't just justice, it was a new beginning.